Hey, what's up guys? John here. We are witnessing a takeover of property in Los Angeles, California. It's going to be likely a big problem that's going to spread nationwide, and I think a lot of real estate investors need to pay attention to it, and a lot of tenants need to pay attention to it. In locations such as LA and New York City and these other markets, there were eviction moratoriums and many tenants felt protected. However, the table has completely turned on these tenants. Now the tenants are in big trouble. I'm going to break down exactly what's going on behind the scenes so you can see things very clearly as what the future is going to look like as a landlord and a tenant in a place like Los Angeles. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate more people about what's really going on in the real estate market. And if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you. At my company, greatcreditfast.com, that's greatcreditfast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, you have a problem on your credit report, it could stay there for 7 years, maybe longer, and one late payment could drop your score upwards of 180 points. Don't let one problem get in the way of a bright future. Go to greatcreditfast.com. Take a look at this. So this came out LA Times. Thousands of California tenants could face obscure tax bill for living in subsidized housing. Well, it's very fascinating because we remember in 2020 with those eviction moratoriums, when they came into place, many people felt that they were protected living there. And at that time, a little after that time, I put this video out there saying I called it California seizing real estate. This came out November 15th, 2021. Take a look at what Gavin Newsom just said. It's pretty unbelievable to me because it's exactly what I called.
We put $6 billion, $5.8 billion for HomeKey. Some of you may know a little bit about HomeKey. We started buying hotels and motels last year. Seemed an opportunistic time to do it amidst the pandemic. A lot were vacant. A lot of people were desperate. A lot of small business owners were very happy that someone was going to come in and purchase those assets. We were able to purchase 6,000 units in 5.5 months.
This is after they started passing all of these new, bills and these new investing strategies that we're going to start to invest in these properties. Think about this. They form a strategy in which is going to cause massive financial distress on property owners. Then they raise capital and they deploy it on these properties. And so Newsom, in this video, he comes out saying, yeah, we bought thousands of units from mom and pops, and basically taking these properties over. But you think about what's happening now. They lifted the eviction moratorium just about 3 months ago. Now there's 226,000 renters that are behind on rent. And it's fascinating because this new bill, right, what they're doing now is that they're buying these distressed properties. And they are no longer having to pay taxes on the buildings, and they're issuing more fees and increasing rents on the tenants. And the tenants, they don't have any other option. They have to pay or go on their credit report. So they'll have a harder time getting a mortgage. They'll have a harder time. Look at it. I'll show you. It's crazy. So these fees, how it works is that they are going to pay upwards of $1,500 per year. $1,500 per year, right here, paying $1,500 per year, or the equivalent of $125 extra per month, right? If taxes go unpaid, residents could face a lien that could make it more difficult to qualify for a mortgage or other loans, right? And on top of this, what's absolutely crazy, they go on to say here, they said, these guys are making money. They don't want to pay any taxes, but you have to pay your taxes. It's crazy. They raise money from taxpayers. They use their money, taxpayer revenue, to go buy their properties, and then they tilt the scale to favor themselves. So how does a mom and pop investor, how does any investor compete with the state, right? How do they do it? And so right here it says, Los Angeles County Assessor, estimated annual taxes for individual tenants could range $500 to $1,500. Initial bills may be higher since tenants would be charged for each year that they have lived there. So they can basically backdate the bills. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely nuts. But let's look back in time. In 2021, they said, oh, we're going to pay 100% of the rent for low-income renters. Remember, they made it seem as though they had the tenants back. And so tenants were like, yeah, we're really in a good spot now. Landlords, they have enough money, they have enough, we need to level the playing field, right? That was the conversation that was had by the media. But now you look at what's actually happening right now. This is not whether you are a landlord, whether you're a tenant, whether you're in the middle. Look at what's happening. This is a massive power grab that's not good for anybody except for the state. And that's what's happening in California. You look at what has happened there with massive crime waves, homelessness out of control. The state has basically fallen apart. And this is what's happening with big government. And the government's going to get much, much bigger as they begin to roll this out, which is going to be the biggest power grab, biggest land grab that we've ever seen. So they are going to start to implement and enforce these building energy regulations, mandatory performance standards for existing buildings, including measures to reduce embodied emissions in buildings with benchmarking of whole life emissions, incentivizing and implementing citywide actions towards grid decarbonization. And this is Los Angeles. I mean, you look at all these cities that are a part of this: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. It's going to be happening everywhere. So when people are looking at these, these headlines in the media, and they say that we need to combat inequality. This is their version of combating inequality, where if you don't pay the state, rather than the landlord increasing your rent, if you don't pay the state, they're going to wreck your credit, right? Landlords, they don't have that type of authority. The state does. And so when you look at this situation, I promise you, this is only just the beginning. This is only just the beginning. This woman right here, I read this article. She said, she found this apartment in Pasadena. It was $2,200 a month, and it was a couple $100 less than the comparable. So she moved in thinking, yes, I got a good deal. And then out of nowhere, the state hits her with a tax bill saying that if she doesn't pay, it's going to go on her credit report. She wasn't notified of it prior to moving into the building. She wasn't notified. Now she's most likely going to have to relocate or try to find a new place to live because she can't afford the extra $125 per month that the state is going to start to demand. So this is absolutely crazy. This is absolutely crazy, but it does not surprise me. It does not surprise me. So when you start to see, they're crafting new renter protections and they're doing all these things for renters, just know they don't care at all about the renter. They don't care at all about the landlord. So if you are a renter and you're thinking, oh, everything's going to be okay because, there's all these great protections, or if you're a landlord, you have to really look at what's happening. If you're a landlord or you want to be a landlord, you're competing with the state, right? You're competing with the state in a place like California. If they don't have to pay property taxes, they can essentially control the eviction process. So if you have a tenant not paying rent, good luck. You're going to have to go through the state to try to evict that tenant. If the state is the landlord, the judge, and the jury, and they're using unlimited capital from the taxpayer, how do they lose, right? How do they lose? Even when it comes to all these, new regulations for the upgrading of the buildings, they are the ones that get to say whether it passes or it doesn't pass. It's crazy, but when you just start to really look at when you click who we are, and you start to look at leadership, I mean, you have some really, really powerful people. You got, Mayor London right here. But you look at this, funders and partners, you just start to scroll through this, you're realizing that this is what's going to happen. Without doubt, this is what's going to happen. But I'm still very bullish on real estate. I love real estate. I think it's an incredible way to build and store wealth. Don't get me wrong. But I do think that there is a massive power shift that's occurring right now. Before it was mainly landlords and tenants. It was mainly the market that was determining value. But now it's the government, right? They're going to be able to, government, insurance companies, all of this is on the verge of massive change. But fascinatingly enough, as this is all happening, we have $1 trillion in commercial mortgages that have to get refinanced over the next 12 months. $2.7 trillion has to get refinanced from now until 2027, right? So the next 3 years. So you start to look at all of this at the same exact time. The state they're printing so much money. The government is printing so much money, and the government partnered up with the state of California to reduce homelessness 25%. So what is this going to mean? They're going to start buying more and more and more and more property, and they're going to start implementing all these changes. So crazy times, very crazy times, but I think things are going to get crazier. When I mentioned that we're in the greatest wealth transfer of all time, I mean it. We're in the greatest wealth transfer of all time. Last 3 years, warm up for what's to come. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think that we are stepping into a situation in which the government is going to start buying up a lot of property in California? As we start to see this economy slip, and a lot of people are already starting to see it with bank downgrades, you're starting to see a lot more volatility. You're seeing a consumer that is much more cautious, and I think for good reason. And I think when things start to hit the fan, you're going to start to see the state and the federal government step in and start acquiring tons and tons and tons of property. It's going to be crazy. But what do you think? Drop it below. Hit the like button, add me on IG. And if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com. Go there, schedule a free strategy session. Don't let one problem, one issue in your credit report prevent you from getting a good mortgage, a business loan, or advancing in life. Greatcreditfast.com. Catch you in the next video.